Well, now we go to the east of the continent. Before our markets discussion, we're going to be looking at unemployment. Tomorrow, of course, is Workers' Day, Labour Day, depending on the country that you're in. And all too often it's not work and not labour for too many people in a country. Well, unemployment in Kenya's formal sector is estimated to be at 20%, with major issues surrounding creating jobs for school leavers in particular. So in acknowledgement of Workers' Day in Kenya, we want to look at issues such as the cost of labour in the country, to private sector and human capital competitiveness. Joining us live from our studios in Nairobi, Sammy Nyambari, who is Director of Labour at the Ministry of Labour. Good morning, Sammy. Let's start with those percentages. And one of the numbers I just mentioned is the 20% unemployment rate in the formal sector. 40% unemployment overall in 2011, up from 13% in 2006. That's a huge jump in 5 years.
Yeah, I think so. It's a huge jump in 5 years, but a lot of measures have been put in place to deal with the issue. And as we speak now, we have a policy that is going to deal with employment issues. We haven't had one since independence. So I think for us, the issue is that we must look at those enablers that can create jobs in our country. And the government is working strictly with other partners, and particularly the social partners, workers and employers organizations, to address those issues and to see how we move forward in terms of job creation in this country.
Well, what do you see the enablers as? Because I think the point has been made globally. All the studies on entrepreneurship and employment and so on. Big companies, big corporates seldom create jobs. In net terms, obviously they employ people, they might grow, but they seldom create jobs. Entrepreneurs, new businesses are the ones that create jobs. Is Kenya encouraging that?
Yes, Kenya is encouraging business. We know that we have a tightrope to balance between employment creation and retention, as well as making sure that there is competitiveness. We would want to give an opportunity for employers to create jobs, and that is why government has been creating an enabling environment where job creation can be part and parcel of development. And I think the issue is that macroeconomic issues in this country have been consolidated to deal with the issue of unemployment, and particularly the aspect of youth unemployment, which has been taken is one of the key priorities of the current government in terms of moving forward.
This also is a global issue, not just an African issue. Certainly in South Africa, 500,000 young matriculants leaving school every year, coming onto the labour market, adding to that unemployment list. But in Europe too, Greece, the numbers in Greece for youth unemployment, and Spain and places like that, approaching South Africa, which is pretty bad. What are you doing about that youth market where people come out of school and not experienced, not that well qualified, difficult to find work?
Of course, there have been a number of programs and projects that have been targeted specifically at the youth. We do know that it is important for us to have some kind of economic transformation so that we can be able to move forward. And I think one of the things is that we need to create employment for those who are out there through pumping resources into infrastructure, because we also know that infrastructure has created resources. Of course, there have been activities also relating to public works, where youth are given an opportunity to work in labor-intensive industries and all this kind of thing. And at the same time, I think there has been the aspect of trying to make sure that youth also become job creators rather than seeking for employment every other time. I think there has also been the issue of skills development and trying to make sure that our youth can be able to have skills that are competitive in the labor market. And we have also been trying to look at the aspect of trying to make sure that youth also get opportunities outside this country in terms of working abroad. We have been having a lot of remittance from people who are working out there, and we think this can be used to plow back resources that can also be able to promote and boost employment in this country.
Of course, one of the problems if you've got large unemployment is that the people who are already unemployed, older people, obviously will be threatened by more competition from school leavers. And of course, if school leavers are prepared to work for lower wages, that's even more of a threat. Is there a resistance to paying lower student-type wages?
But we have a minimum wage profession in this country, and I think it is true that an unemployment can sometimes depress wages, which is a fact. But we are working closely with the partners to make sure that this does not happen. That is why we have provided for policies and the legislation that and actually programs and projects that actually address this issue, so that we can be able to look at those who have that vulnerability. Of course, the issue of the youth coming over to take old people's jobs, well, I think that should be complementary. The old and the young should work together so that we can be able to develop this country.
And then what about the labour scene? Because on the one hand you want to create jobs, on the other hand sometimes it appears that the unions are not interested in creating jobs but protecting the jobs that they have already and the wages that they have. How would you characterise the industrial relations scene at the moment?
The industrial relations setup in this country is based on dialogue. I think the partners, the unions, the employers and government have been dialoguing and agreeing on a number of issues. Sometimes we do disagree, which is fine in industrial relations, it is accepted. But one of the things that we are sure about is that the unions are also interested in creating jobs or in making sure that the economy performs effectively. Because if the economy does not perform effectively, then we don't create local demand. And I think it is important, therefore, that we should be able to balance that aspect of having both employers and workers discussing and agreeing on the way forward in terms of the wage spirals and all this kind of thing, so that we can come to a compromise in terms of how we move forward. But the fact remains that I think employers and workers, and particularly the trade unions, are as interested in job creation like anybody else. So the issue is that we have to have an element of inclusiveness where we sit, discuss and agree that this is the direction that we need to take, because at the end of the day we are talking about a labor market, and our labor market of course has to be developed through local demand. There is no labor market globally that has been developed without having workers and workers having disposable income to be able to buy goods and services within that particular economy. So for us, we just need that dialogue so that we can be able to move forward.